Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing finishing up the 2024 mid-year top 10s, as we are going to look at the heavyweight division, the best division in boxing in terms of just overall what everybody gets excited about in the sport. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So, for the heavyweights, we are going to look at, the updated rankings for halfway through the year. Remember, these are not official. My end-of-year top 10s are the official ones, where we discuss, each guy and how, what I feel in more detail. But this one, we just run through the top 10. We look at the guys that have dropped out from the beginning of the year, and then we talk about the top 5 guys that are ranked by the governing bodies that did not make the top 10. So let's start with the guys that dropped out. Only one guy, former longtime WBC champion Deontay Wilder. He was number 8 coming into the year. He took on Zhilei Zhang in June in a big heavyweight match of 2 heavy hitters. Both were coming off decision losses to Joseph Parker, and Zhilei Zhang destroyed Deontay Wilder. Wilder was in it at moments. He landed some good shots. You could tell the size difference impacted him, as Zhang was about 60 pounds heavier. And then in the 5th round, Zhang landed a mean right hook that spun Wilder around. And then he finished him off with a straight left that put him down. And that was all she wrote. So Wilder, he has lost now, I believe that is his 4th loss in his last 5 fights. So I just, in good conscience, cannot keep him in the top 10. I will say this, that there is some talk about him retiring. He hasn't done that yet. I think Wilder enjoys these big paydays, from Saudi Arabia. So he might hang around for a while longer, but I just don't know how competitive this guy really is, how much he's really putting into it. And to be honest, if it's still really there in terms of just being able to compete with the best guys. So we'll see what Wilder decides to do in the second half of the year. Now we start the top 10. Coming in at number 10, it was close, but I gave it to undefeated Jared, the real big baby Anderson. He just has that undefeated record and resume has him rolling in terms of, being able to big opportunities, and I just think overall, you look at some of the other guys, I'm giving it to him. He edges out some other guys for that final spot. Anderson's ranked number 4 in the WBO right now, and he has a big fight on August 3rd on the Madrimov Crawford undercard, when he is going to take on Martin Bakole, who's the WBA's number 1 ranked contender. A win right here for Anderson, and it locks up a top 10 spot, and he really pushes towards a title shot in bigger fights moving forward. So it's a good matchup. Bakole's a good fighter. We'll see what goes down August 3rd, Amazon Prime pay-per-view. Next at number 9, moving up 1 spot from number 10, is the undefeated Ajit Kabayel. This guy returned following that destructive 4th round TKO over Arslanbek Makhmudov on the Day of Reckoning card in December. And on the Fury Usyk undercard, he would take on undefeated Frank Sanchez. These guys were dead even on age, height, reach. I mean, it was right down the middle. But I, like most people, thought Sanchez was more natural, was smoother, and was going to be able to outwork him. And he just broke down Frank Sanchez. Did not allow Sanchez to box and do anything that he likes to do. Just stalked him and just broke him down, cut him off, and ended up stopping him, I think, in the 7th round. Impressive ass performance, the biggest win of his career. And now Kabayel's hot. He is number 3 in the WBC right now. I don't know if that really means anything. Maybe he'll get like an eliminator before the end of the year. But I hope somebody wants to get that smoke with Kabayel, and these 2 guys can make, and Kabayel can return. I'm hoping on the Fury Usyk undercard in their rematch, or on the Better Be a Bivol undercard in October. So we'll see. But Kabayel definitely deserves a big fight next. Next at number 8, dropping 2 spots for number 6 is former interim champion Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce finally returned from his back-to-back knockout losses to Zhilei Zhang last year. He took on, I think it was veteran Christian Hammer. He stopped him. I think it was him. No, it wasn't Christian Hammer. It was somebody else. I'm sorry. My bad. He returned, got a knockout win to bounce back. Now he's returning, stepping up the competition on July 27th against the workhorse, the gatekeeper, Derek War Chisora. That's at the end of July. I got Joyce winning this one. I think he'll break down Chisora and stop him in the later rounds. But Chisora is the kind of guy that can really test you even at his age, and I'm looking forward to seeing this one. But this is an opportunity for Joyce to get back into the serious mix. A win here, maybe he comes back on one of those 2 big undercards, on the October undercard of Bivol Beterbiev, or on the Usyk Fury 2 undercard at the end of the year. So Joyce, and hopefully Joyce can step it up and face somebody good. His highest rating right now is number 9 in the WBC, but he can start working his way back into the mix. Next at number 7, dropping 3 spots from number 4, is Filip Hrgović. Hrgović came in, was the undefeated IBF mandatory number 1 contender. We knew something was coming up after Usyk beat Fury for undisputed in May. Everybody thought the IBF was going to immediately order Hrgović and Dubois for the vacant title in June, which it essentially ended up being, but it wasn't for the official title at the time, as Usyk filed an exception to allow him to stay undisputed, and the IBF declared this an interim title fight. So Hrgović went in against Dubois on the 5 versus 5 card as the odds-on favorite against Daniel Dubois, and Daniel Dubois stood his ground in a good action fight early on, and then just broke down Filip Hrgović. Finally, from a bad cut, the fight was stopped in the 8th round, and it was stopped on the cut was started by a punch, and Daniel Dubois would win by TKO in the 8th, handing Filip Hrgović the first defeat of his career. Hrgović is going to have to bounce back. I'm hoping the cut isn't too bad so he can come back before the end of the year. I really want to see who he comes back against. Honestly, him and Joe Joyce, they want to make a statement. I think one of those guys, or if one of those guys wants to give Caballel an opportunity, I think it would be good. But Hrgović really shot himself in the foot losing this fight. It was a tough one. He's still the WBO. His highest rating is number 6 by the WBO. So maybe he can work himself into some kind of an eliminator before the end of the year. We'll see. Next at number 6, dropping 1 spot from number 5, is the former WBO interim champion Zhilei Zhang. He came into the year hot, coming off those back-to-back knockout wins over Joe Joyce last year. In March, on the Joshua Nagano undercard, he would take on Joseph Parker for the WBO interim. He would defend the interim title against Parker, and in a surprise, even though he scored a couple knockdowns, he would lose a 12-round majority decision. Parker deserved the win over Zhang, and Zhang came up short, losing for only the 2nd time in his career. He bounced back and signed on for the 5 versus 5 card to take on Deontay Wilder, as we discussed earlier. And in impressive fashion, 60 pounds heavier, he landed a wicked right hook in the, I believe it was the 5th round, that spun Wilder around, and then a straight left hand that put him down for good. And Zhilei Zhang gets a monster win following a tough, close decision loss, and is right back in the mix. For the second half of the year, I hope Zhilei Zhang and Joseph Parker can rematch, to leave no doubt. Zhang, he's kind of left out in the cold, and so is Parker. You got the top 4 guys are basically facing each other right now, so none of those guys are really going to be available to fight each other. So why not Zhang and Joseph Parker? I would love to see that fight. If he can't get Parker, maybe a rematch with Hrgović. Tell Hrgović, hey, you're coming off a loss. I want to avenge my loss. Let me go after you. But I think Zhang did have a rematch clause in the contract, so I'm gonna be surprised if these guys don't fight again before the end of the year. And I absolutely think it's gonna be on either the Beterbiev Bivol undercard, or it's gonna take place a couple months later on the Fury Usyk 2 card. So we'll see what happens. Next at number 5, moving up 2 spots from number 7, is the current WBO interim champion, Joseph Parker. He entered the year coming off the big upset decision win over Deontay Wilder on the Day of Reckoning card in December of last year. And in March, he doubled down and scored another upset decision win, this time majority decision, after getting off the canvas twice against Zhilei Zhang to upset Zhang and become the WBO interim champion. So Joseph Parker is rolling right now. We don't know what he's going to do next, but now that we know Usyk and Fury 2 is happening at the end of the year, now that we know that Dubois and Joshua is happening for the IBF title in September, I think Parker's going to really soon, he's going to make a decision on what he wants to do. I think Parker's likely going to return on the Bivol Better Be of undercard, and I hope it's against Zhilei Zhang in a rematch or Ajit Caballel, because both guys deserve it, and Parker really wants to get back into the mix of things. And to be honest, I wouldn't even be surprised if he decides to fight Joe Joyce again to avenge that prior defeat. So Parker's got some options, and I think he'll be making an announcement soon on what he's going to do in the second half of the year. Next at number 4, moving up 5 spots from number 9, is the newly crowned IBF heavyweight champion of the world, Daniel Dubois. Dubois came into the year coming off of a big win over Jarrell Big Baby Miller in December, but that was after a tough knockout loss to Alexander Usyk as he challenged for the unified heavyweight title last August. So nobody really thought Dubois was going to do much this year. Then on June 1st, he signed on for the 5 versus 5 card against Filip Hrgović and came in a heavy underdog in that fight. The IBF deemed that an interim title fight, and so he came in, almost everybody expecting him to lose, myself included, but I did say he was a live underdog, and he scored a monster upset in this one after a cut was opened up by a punch over Hrgovic's eye. Dubois just took over the fight, dominated Filip Hrgović, and stopped him in the 8th round as he would capture the IBF interim title. And then, as luck would have it, less than a month later, Alexander Usyk decided to declare the IBF title vacant, allowing Dubois to be upgraded to full champion. And also at the same time, Dubois and Anthony Joshua was made official for September. So in an all-UK showdown for the IBF heavyweight title, Daniel Dubois has the biggest fight of his career and a huge opportunity when he takes on former 2-time unified heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua. Big time fight in September. I'm picking against Dubois again. I think Joshua is going to knock him out, but I absolutely think Daniel Dubois is a live underdog, and I can't wait to see this fight on September 21st. A win here, and he gets probably the winner of Fury Usyk 2 in December for Undisputed. So really looking forward to seeing how Dubois does against Joshua. Next at number 3, and still number 3, is the former 2-time unified heavyweight champion of the world, Anthony Joshua. Joshua in March would come back off of that big win over Otto Wallin and take on Francis Ngannou. Most people were favoring Joshua, but a lot of people wanted to see how he would look against Ngannou, who had looked good against Fury 5 months earlier. But Joshua left no doubt. He went out there, put Ngannou down in the first round, and then in the second round knocked him down 2 more times with a finishing touch, overhand right that knocked Ngannou out cold, and Joshua left no doubt with that big victory. He is hot right now, and in June it was announced that he and Daniel Dubois would return on a huge card on the September 21st. It's an all-UK card where he will now challenge Daniel Dubois for the IBF heavyweight title. Big time fight right here. A chance to become a 3-time world champion, and even bigger, a victory likely leads to an undisputed title fight against the winner of Fury Usyk 2. Can't wait to see that fight. Dubois and Joshua, September 21st on pay-per-view. Really looking forward to it. Next at number 2, and still at number 2, is the now former 2-time heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury. Fury entered the year undefeated as a WBC champ, was supposed to fight Usyk for undisputed in February. A cut caused in training forced Fury to push the fight back until May. They collided in May. Fury was doing very well through like 7 rounds. I had him up on the cards, and then Usyk came back into the fight, and in the 9th round, almost knocked Fury out. Fury showed the heart of a champion after he was allowed to continue in the 9th round. He got up and finished the fight as best he could in a good ending, great championship rounds between the two. But at the end of the day, Alexander Usyk got a very close split decision and took the WBC title and became the undisputed champion. Fury had an automatic rematch clause in the contract. These two guys are going to return on December 21st to fight each other in a rematch. I'm actually favoring Fury in the rematch, but I really think it's a 50-50 fight again. I can't wait for this rematch, but it will not be for undisputed. It's going to be for the unified heavyweight title as Usyk vacated the IBF belt. And now finally, the number 1 heavyweight in the world, still number 1, is the undefeated, now former undisputed champ, once again unified champ, Alexander Usyk. Usyk entered the year with the IBF, WBO, WBA super title in unified belt. After defeating Usyk to become undisputed champion, he vacated the IBF belt, so he still holds the WBA super, the WBO, and the WBC belts. And following the victory, the great, massive, historic victory over Fury, he gave up the IBF belt and is moving up, or is gonna fight Fury again on December 21st for the unified title. Really looking forward to that. Can't wait to see it again. I'm favoring Fury in that fight, but I really think Usyk can pull off the victory again and retain the heavyweight championship of the world. So it's going to be good December 21st. Now we're going to look at the top 5 heavyweights from the 4 governing bodies that are not in the top 10. So we start with Martin Bakole. Bakole only 1 loss on his resume. He's the WBA's number 1 ranked contender. Has a monster fight on August 3rd, the biggest of his career, when he battles undefeated Jared, the real Big Baby Anderson. Big fight for Bakole right here. If he can beat Jared Anderson, he is absolutely in the top 10, and he's right there knocking on the door for a title shot. So a big opportunity on Amazon Prime pay-per-view on August 3rd. I'm favoring Jared Anderson, but I really am not going to be shocked if Bakole pulls off this win. Next is Michael Hunter. He's the WBA's number 4 contender. He's a former world title challenger at cruiserweight. He actually holds a win over Bakole. He actually has, he came back, I think last year, and he's been rolling. He's fought twice already this year and got a couple nice wins. Michael Hunter's working himself back into the mix. Again, he's the WBA's number 4 contender. I'm hoping he can get a good fight, maybe even test out Ajit Caballel, or get Joe Joyce or Philip Hergovich, Zhilei Zhang, Joseph Parker, be available for one of those big fights and get an opportunity and throw himself in the mix. I'm hoping he gets something big. Then it's Efe Ajagba. He's the WBC's number 5 contender. He entered the year, he's been undefeated since the loss to Frank Sanchez a few years ago, and been knocking people out, but he took on some undefeated Italian heavyweight, an unknown guy, and he really didn't look that good. He ended up winning a close split decision in that fight. Uneventful kind of fight. So he kind of did himself a disservice, but I'm hoping he can get a decent opponent in the second half of the year. Again, another guy that really needs to throw himself into the mix and take somebody on. Maybe he can get on if Top Rank and the PBC decide get the Tank Davis Vasily Lomachenko fight going, maybe they can have, the PBC can have one of their heavyweights fight Ajagba on the undercard to kind of entice people with a big heavyweight fight. So we'll see how that shakes out. Next is Lenier Pero. He is the undefeated fighter. He's the WBA's number 5 contender. Not really much going on with him. If he should try to get himself into an eliminator before the end of the year so he can work himself into the mix of this exploding heavyweight division at the moment. And then finally is former cruiserweight world title challenger Mike Perez. Not really anything going on with him. You know, I don't know if he's floating between heavyweight and cruiserweight, but you know, he's an older fighter now. Haven't really heard much from him. He should, if he really wants a serious crack in the heavyweight division, he should make himself available for one of the big dogs before the end of the year. So that's it. You know, pretty much the heavyweight division is really hot right now. I cannot wait to see what happens in the second half of the year, and when the smoke clears, who's sitting at the top, who's sitting at number 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't wait to see what the top 5 looks like by the end of the year. So that's it. That's what I got. That's my 2024 mid-year top 10 on the heavyweight division. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been here with the truth.